I'm going to show you 3 things in composition that will improve your photos. Composition. What is composition? Composition is the way you put your subject inside the rest of your image. So it is the way your subject sits within the image which creates the composition of the image. So every photograph or every visual medium has a subject. The way their subject is placed within the overall image creates a composition. Why does composition matter? So composition matters because without it, your viewer, his eye drifts all over the image and without settling on where you want it to settle. So without composition and without a good composition, your image is a little bit lost. Your viewer looks at your photo and can't quite see what you're trying to convey and can't quite see literally the wood from the trees. Possibly the most important photography concept in composition, and that is the rule of thirds. If you don't know what it is, you've heard of it. Everybody speaks about it, everybody talks about it, everybody knows it, but a lot of people ignore it. What is the rule of thirds? The rule of thirds is basically you draw 2 horizontal lines and 2 vertical lines, and it divides the image into 9 parts. And the 4 points of the middle of that image are your strongest composition points. So when you place something on that point, it creates a more pleasing shot for the viewer. Everybody uses rule of thirds, especially videographers. So have a look how the driver and the passenger are both on a third. When they look behind them, there's somebody sitting in the back seat and they are placed in the middle of the image. And that makes sense because both passenger and driver can speak to him. However, when the driver looks at the passenger in the back through the rearview mirror, that is placed on a third. So the driver's on a third, the passenger's on a third, maybe even in the same shot, even the car is placed on a third. But it's not only TV and video that will use it. Nature documentaries use them all the time. Have a look at this. So the rock is perfectly on a third. The swan's flying in from one third to the next. This otter gliding through in the bottom third, giving it a lot of space above it. But when you zoom in on it, it's in that third. Here, a lot of space is given above it, which is negative space. We'll talk about that later. But look, this otter diving in at a third. When it's swimming, it's placed in a third. This bobcat walking is again on the top third. The wolf or the coyote in the bottom third. These swans again on the third. It's amazing to see how many times a third is deliberately used by videographers to make a scene more powerful. So how does this relate to photography? Let's have a look. I'm going to show you 3 images of my own which I took and which deliberately follow the rule of thirds. The first one is this Iberian lynx photographed in Spain, and it was photographed in April, and I wanted to show that it is sitting amongst the spring flowers. So you see quite a lot of yellows and a little bit of purple in the shot, and I placed it on this, let's call it the right third, and I wanted it to look into the shot because I wanted the image to incorporate spring but still have the Iberian lynx as a subject. This is a hooded crow flying in from the right to left. This is photographed in Norway during the Eagles in the Snow trip. And you can see this crow is about to land. If nothing else, the third places it in a position that indicates to the viewer that it is going downwards. From the top, moving down. But it also indicates or shows the vast forest that he lived in. Finally, I wanted to use this bear to show off the forest. So I wanted to place the bear in the bottom third because the top 2/3 are going to be used to show just how big the forest is when compared to the bear. And the bear is not a small animal, but yes, the forest is huge and vast. Okay, so number 1, leading lines is the one we're going to come to. Number 1 is rule of thirds. Number 2 is leading lines. And what is leading lines? So leading lines is anything in your image that will lead the viewer's eye around your image and hopefully settle where you want it to settle. So, for example, a road or a river or even a fence with lots of posts, and there's an owl sitting on the post right at the end. The viewer is led to your owl via the fence, which is termed a leading line. I'm going to show you again some of my photos, and hopefully this will indicate or illustrate what leading lines are. Leading lines are not easy to find in nature, and they're a lot easier to find in things like if you photograph landscapes, but they are there in nature and they can be used. The first image I'm going to show is this leopard photographed in South Africa. So the tree is the leading line. It goes diagonally and focuses or settles on the top right hand corner. It is also comes from the middle of the photo, which adds to the composition. There's a lot of negative space to the left of it, but that's something we're going to cover later on. What's also interesting is that the leopard has its back, its tummy, and its feet all parallel to that leading line, which again emphasizes the composition, makes a strong composition. His head is 90 degrees to the cutting lines, so again reinforces the composition on this image. The next one is this tiger. It was photographed in India during one of the trips last year, and like I said, it's not always easy to see a leading line in nature, but if you look at the base of all these trees, they all line up, and it's in the direction of the way the tiger is traveling. So it's a leading line. Consequently, this image also has vertical trees, which indicates height, and which is also used as a leading line in the image to enhance the composition. Number 3 is negative space. So what is negative space? It's the space you leave around your subject. It is a space that allows your subject to breathe. It is a space that shows that the subject is small or minimalist. Minimalist photographers use this a lot in showing that, yes, there's a bit of wildlife in the image, but the surrounding is vast. And so it might just be, for example, fox eyes in the snow with a vast surrounding of white. It doesn't have to be blank. So that's a mistake a lot of people make. Your negative space does not have to be blank, but it does enhance or does show size of your subject as well as the space around it. Let's have a look at some photos. So this one is a little stint. I think it's a little stint. I sometimes get confused with the birds, but I really wanted to show how small and how isolated this bird was. This is photographed on a beach in Tofino in Canada, and by leaving it space and leaving it space to show off just how small it was, it creates a feeling of, if you've never seen this bird, you could tell me it was small. It creates a feeling of how small it is and how big the environment is in comparison. The other one is this female mallard swimming towards me. I wanted to show, this is photographed in London, I wanted to show that the duck is still coming towards me. So I left a lot of space underneath the duck. Yes, it does help with the reflection, for sure, but it also shows that the duck is still swimming towards me. So it gives that impersonation or the interpretation from the viewer that this duck is moving towards me. And finally, this lion growling. I left space to the right of it because I wanted the viewer to make up their own story. What is the lion growling at? Is it growling at another lion? Is it growling at some prey? Is it growling at something else? It's really up to the photographer or up to the viewer to have a look and to imagine what's there. The photographer knows what's there. That's not important. What's there is one thing. What the viewer imagines is another thing. Negative space allows you to fill that space with your imagination. Right, so you stay till the end. I'm going to show you, or I'm going to teach you how to put this into practice. Go outside there with your camera and decide, today I'm going to try just one of the things I've learned. And I'm going to try leading lines. And I'm going to spend the whole day, the whole week, however long you want. I'm going to spend the time only looking for leading lines or only looking to use the rule of thirds. And by doing that, you become, let's call it a semi-expert in that little field. And when you try in the next one, which say you started with the rule of thirds, you're now moving on to leading lines, you actually apply rule of thirds without even knowing it. So just take one, spend the day, spend the weeks, whatever. Just go out there and learn that technique. The other thing is make your shot. Don't rely on the wildlife to move into place for you. Don't let the planners align. Don't wait for things to happen. Make things happen. So, for example, move your feet. A lot of photographers are scared to move their feet. Don't know why they don't do it. But move your feet. Get into position. If something's going to happen, get into position. If you are better off standing or sitting, get into position. Make sure that you are prepared for the shot, that you are anticipating the shot, and that you are deliberate. There's nothing more important in photography than being deliberate. Why? Because you can repeat that again and again and again. It's not an accidental shot.